Hi, I'm Terry Coleth. I'm here today with Professor Adrian Kier. We're talking about a course coming up in the Academy of Lifelong Learning where we're going to focus on the Crusades, fact versus fiction. Thank you for joining me, Adrian.
Hello, Terry. Nice to be back.
Now, the Crusades are something we all think we know about. We all kind of ignore that this happened because, as you said, the medieval Crusades were a blood-soaked series of holy wars. How horrible.
Well, it all started when the balance between Christianity and Islam changed. So for most of the history of the Holy Land, as we call it, there was Judaism, there was Roman paganism, then Christianity took over from 450 onwards. And so it was stable for 200 years until a new religion propped up in what we call Saudi Arabia, Mecca today, which was started by Muhammad. And as the expansion of Islam took place after his death, which was huge, all the way to Spain and over to the Indus River and up to the Eastern Roman Empire. So the Holy Land, as it was, which was open to pilgrims for 200 or 300 years, suddenly became occupied by another religion. And they cohabitated, and they even shared churches. It's quite remarkable that the very early contact of the Islamic conquerors, when they took Jerusalem, they didn't have a mosque. So they actually asked the Christians, you use your church on a Sunday, we need the church on a Friday, can we do a deal? And for 200 years, that worked out pretty well, until some extreme fundamentalist Islamic folk decided that that wasn't appropriate, and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and some Christians were massacred. And that's the beginning of the root of the evil, if you like. Of course, the occupation of the Jerusalem, the Holy City, was an irritation to the Christians because they conducted pilgrimages. And no longer were they safe sometimes to go to the coast, to Haifa and Tel Aviv today, and travel inland where they could be attacked by bandits, brigands, and maybe held to ransom or killed. So the call went up from most of the Eastern Byzantine Empire, which saw its part of the Eastern Mediterranean declining as Islam moved north. So they called on the Pope, and the Pope declared a crusade. And that was based on the Orthodox Greek word crucis, which means a cross. Anybody who wore a cross on their tunic and died in battle to recover the Holy Land for Christianity was guaranteed a success in heaven. And so the crusade started. The first crusade was, by any accounts from the Western European side, a huge success, because most of the eastern Levant, the Mediterranean coast, from Turkey down to Cairo, was captured by Christian armies, and then they set themselves up as kings of Jerusalem and so on. Mm-hmm. And so it stayed. Christianity was back in charge, and all things looked great. Unfortunately, success breeds failure, and subsequent incursions of the Arabs, or we call them Arabs at the time, but Saracens was the Middle Ages name for them. Incursions gradually meant that Jerusalem and other areas were threatened, and there was a whole series of crusades which went from bad to worse, most of them failing until you come to the time of Richard Lionheart, when he led the Christian armies to the walls of Jerusalem, and he turned to his armies and said, let's go back home to Tel Aviv. And they said, why? He said, well, I can't conquer the city of Jerusalem, I just can't hold it, because this very dynamic, gifted military strategist, Saladin, we call him Saladin, based in Damascus, had all the water holes, and so he would starve them out and take the water from them. So a deal was struck. And I'll tell you what the deal was when we have the session.
Well, you might want to join us, because this is going to be really, really interesting. And we will meet on Tuesday, January 16th.